So you notice down over here they start getting older, and they'll start getting very old. They'll be over 200 years old pretty soon. Al, you probably want to talk about this one.
The small stone here?
The small one that has the number 1 on it.
There are 10 of these numbered stones erected by cemetery trustees in the past. We don't have good record of who created them or commissioned them, or we don't know who is buried there. But they had identified them as grave sites. They didn't know who it was, and so they numbered them 1 through 10. We found 7 of the 10 stones, where 3 of them are still missing. We come across them every once in a while. We have a theory that the town had a town farm, which was the pauper's farm. When somebody died there, they were given a lot. The town paid burial and a lot here, and this is probably theirs because there was no money for a monument, but the town would bury them. And then our town, right along with everybody else, we didn't have a paupers section, which sort of stigmatizes the burial. That's our theory anyway on why these were created that way.
Can you tell us the difference between the white stones and the gray stones?
Well, they're made of different material. These are soapstone, the model color. These are marble. We also, the black one down there is slate, and then there is the granite is the newer. So the earliest stones are slate and then soapstone. Soapstone generally came from Wales. They would manufacture the stone there, they would cut it to shape, they would put the top design. You'll see if you get close enough, there's design at the top and all that. And then the local monument company would put the lettering on it. These came across the Atlantic as the ballast in early ships.
Soapstone is probably easier to engrave, I would think.
It would be, yeah, for sure.
On the numbered stones, when you say we come across them, is that during excavation for new graves or erosion?
Well, we found one just a month or 2 ago. All it was showing was the top, and then grass over that. And examining that and then digging down, found it was one of these. Now we have it back up high again.
Okay.
And when we were cleaning, we discovered them, and when we were mapping, we were putting the names along with the location of the stones, and so it became interesting that we had all these numbers. I think this is the only numbered one where someone has, looks like homemade engraving on the back that put somebody's initials on it. The rest of them just have the numbers, so that's kind of nice. But a mystery since the records are gone.
Where was the town farm?
It was in North Wilmot. The poor farm was North Wilmot.
How far out?
It was off of Eagle
Fresno?
Pond Road.
Eagle Pond, yeah.
Up Eagle Pond?
Kind of near the road, Fraser Brook Road or the South Danbury Road.
Okay.
It sounds like a really unpleasant experience. Yeah.
When you say farm, they lived there or they just raised their own food?
I think that it was forced labor, basically, if you want to put it bluntly.
They lived there, yeah.
Somebody is doing a presentation at Wilmot Library in the next month or 2 about how people bid on people who were homeless and took them into their homes. Now, whether it was whether it was graciousness, some of it was graciousness, but some of it was, the widow Jones came in and worked in the house.
They went to the lowest bid.
Yeah.
Where do you sign up to get people?
Did they plow? Yeah, that'd be good, wouldn't it?
Well, it was the town farm of families or couples or whatever lived there. They also, in town, as Pasha said, They would live in people's homes in town. At the town farm, if you were capable of work, you were required to work to support the farm, grow the vegetables and do the maintenance. So there was, that's the way they paid back for their keep. But if they were infirm or very old, they just lived there.
What, the produce, was that sold or?
It's used by them. They had a very elaborate system of recording all the inventory of the town farm from 1844 to 1896, down to every comb and rake and broom that was there. When somebody could not support themselves any longer and had to give up wherever they were living, if they owned anything there, that then became part of the town's property, and it would be used at the town farm, beds or cupboards or whatever they had to help with the support of the town farm.
All right, next up here, we have a row. So one of the things we noticed when we were mapping it is that this row is all the Wallace family, but many of them have different and creative spellings of Wallace. Like this one is W-A-L-L-I-S, but some of them are missing the E. When the light comes around later in the day, it's better lighting to read them. But what's interesting, at the time these things were made, I mean, this was, quite a while ago, so 1831 onward. The person carving the stone was not even necessarily literate. They just had a pattern of what they were supposed to put in here. And also, I just know from making the fake foam stone that goes into the post office, you can get going on this and then get stuck and you're all the way over here and get in trouble and you've already done the rest of the stone. And so it's actually hard to do. But that's the interesting thing here, really. But I think by the time we get to the 1880s, it normalized on Wallace. But it's an interesting problem for descendants to try to find them. So. The next is back a little bit here, still brick.
We met on that old mill tour a month ago. Yes, we did. Your family goes way back into the mill. My wife did.
So this is here lies James Philbrick. He died in 1856, and the town's first meeting in 1818 was in his house, and the town voted at his house meeting to build the first meeting house. As Al mentioned, they had the beginnings of a meeting house here. They just had the foundation and some benches. Soon we'll meet the people that built the first working townhouse that's up the hill. But it all got started with him. In 1841, they took apart the townhouse. That sounds like the town meeting house, and took the pieces in the wood and reused it over there. So this is James Philbrick, and Polly is nearby. She's. Well, there's people around, I can see. Yeah, she's going to be over there. Polly Jones. Here, Polly. This is Philbrick. We're a little bit ahead. So that's James Philbrick with this meeting house. This is Polly Jones. She was buried in 1816. She's 17 years old. And she's the first one that's in here with a stone. There's one that might actually have 1815 on it. We can't read it very well. And there's stories of people being in here as early as 1808. But she has a nice willow carving if you look at it carefully. We don't have any of the sort of the skull death head ones that you imagine in old cemeteries. That's earlier than all this. That's kind of a Victorian thing, and it's you'll see these in Portsmouth and Boston, but not here.
What did you say the name was?
Her name, Polly Jones. So, and Jeremiah Mitchell is not far away. Yeah, this must have been Jeremiah Mitchell here. Yeah.
Is there a story about the fence around those graves?
No, I have not found why that's there.
Figure that out, yeah.
They wanted it, but. So this is Jeremiah Mitchell. He had the town's first store. He started it in 1817, and it was just down the hill where town center really was, and is right near. We'll meet Gay, who had a tavern, and there's a Kearsarge School of Practice, all just down the hill, and the Mitchell store was there. He was also the first postmaster in 1826, and Goodhue took over the store. We'll meet them soon. So, and right here, this is Henry Shattuck. He died in 1842, 3 years old, and this is an example of a footstone. So you'll see earlier practice was doing it, put the head here, the footstone there, just to kind of mark the full extent of it. And so you'll often see the initials on the footstone. So, so sometimes people think it's another grave or whatever, but it's really, this is the extent of him right there.
Did they just do that for children?
No, they do it for adults. You'll see it elsewhere too.
Oh.
Yeah.
3 years, 1 month.
They get so specific. Sometimes it's days. Yeah. 3 years, 1 month, 2 days. I've never seen one get down to hours, but we stopped doing that. This one here, SK, is actually my favorite. It's just really raw and powerful. But basically it has a backwards S and a K. It looks like it was carved in a very crude way. And underneath it says 1815. Or it might be 1845, but I think it's 1815. We were looking at it the other day. But it's definitely the crudest stone we have here, but it's just really cool. And we have no idea who they were. But if it is 1815, that puts them before Polly.
Maybe the J is Jones. It's a K.
It's a K.
It's K. So
There's
why
a
would
note,
the S be backwards, do you know?
there's different theories about it. They may not have, they may have thought it was the right way. So, yeah. I mean, there's a note in the history book, there's somebody named James Harvey that was born here unmarked in 1815, but that's not SK, is it? Next one is Carolyn down the way. Not far. So this is Carolyn.
So I got to
She died in 1851. She's 3 years and 3 years and 3 months old. A lot of them are really specific about the number of months and days that they are. It's just a really sweet little one. But it has a hand on it, and we'll see some more that have hands on it. It has a hand pointing up and says, "There's my home."
Oh.
So a lot of them, basically the hand pointing up basically means that they feel that they're heaven bound. You'll see hands pointing, we don't have any, but some of them have hands pointing down. And that means that they were stricken down suddenly. It doesn't mean that they're going downwards. And there are ghost stories about hands moving around, but that's another story. But that's a good example of a hand. I'll show you a few more.
Hand going down.
People staying with us? Yeah. Yeah. This is the little fence area. So this is Mehitable Tenney. Her last name is spelled differently than her parents here, but she has one of the most interesting inscriptions. You can't read it very well because it's soapstone and the sun is on the wrong side of the stone, but it says, She was a zealous professor of religion and well-adorned her profession until April 1st, 1823, when she departed her life in the 28th year of her age in full faith of a blessed immortality. And then it keeps going. It's just it's the longest inscription we have, I'm not sure if he was a professor at a university or she just professed her thoughts to people.
How do you know it says that?
Because we read it.
The sun
can
hits
read
the side.
that.
There are tricks. You can actually take a flashlight and move it around and get the shadows.
Oh, I see.
And it starts to pop
Sunlight
out.
brought to
Oh,
it.
okay.
But it's tedious. And it was harder when they were not clean. So these are her parents. Isaac ran a sawmill. And Sarah has an interesting style to her thing. It's this multiple font style. So each letter, each line is a different font. And it kind of looks cool. So we'll see a couple of them like that, but that's a good example of that style. And Lily Bell is their other daughter. Lily, actually, for Putnam is the daughter of this one, and she was only 15 months old. And in a sense, it's very fortunate she has a stone. There were many more children passed away than actually we see here with stones. That they may be here but not marked, or they could be on their family or land or something. But this shows a little flower bud that's drooped over and cut off here. It's as if it's a flower that wilted or was cut off in its before it even bloomed. Mm-hmm. And we'll see some other examples of the flower, like a full-grown woman who died in her prime. You'll see a full-blown rose that's cut off. But they use that kind of flower thing. Yeah.
Can you comment on this Sally? It has a comma after Sally. I've never seen anything like that.
There's a lot of that.
There's a lot of interesting punctuation and things. I don't know if it's meaningful, but
I mean, even back then, they had a pay per symbol.
they had to do that, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, they had
Intentional.
And other ones don't have it.
pay for a pay.
There are a lot of little nuances in these things, and if you start paying attention to them, and then the women always are, you have to look and figure out, okay, is the wife of Benjamin Putnam, and you finally find the last name of them halfway down the stone. So the next one is General Elaphalet Gay. Al, do you want to do this one?
Well, the general was lived here in town all his life. He had a 60-year military career, starting as a teenager in the Revolution. Rose to the rank of Major General. Held numerous other offices in town as postmaster, and he was the guy who just organized things, I guess.
He was one of the original Hogreaves, so he was deputized by the town in 1808 to run around chasing hogs. And that must have been a big adventure. And he also started one of the first taverns in 1807. And his son, William Gay, here continued to run the tavern.
Oh.
So
Where
he...
was the tavern?
I think they called it Gay's Tavern.
Where?
Down the hill.
Oh, down
Everything-
the bottom of the
That's where it's happening right there.
That
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we'll meet the person that founded the school the Academy Apartments there. That used to be the Kierkegaard School of Practice. Was one of the early schools. So William Gay also, he died in 1836 from a falling tree. He was cutting trees with Reuben Wallace, who we met up there. So they were working together, and the branch fell on him, and he died from that. And so there's like a couple sentences describing that whole scene inside one of the history books.
Question, if
Yeah.
a family can't afford a stone, will the town put something up
Now or then?
then?
Then no, I don't think so.
Now?
No.
Okay.
So I think there may be organizations or that kind of thing that will do it. The military will do it if you were a veteran, but
Okay.
that takes a long time. Al wants to talk about Daniel Poor.
Well, Daniel Poor, odd to find him here, but he was a Minuteman in the Battle of Lexington and Concord, 1775. At that time, he was only 14 years old, almost 15. but his father was an officer. They lived in Andover. They marched with the Andover men to Lexington and fought the British. His family, his son, then moved here, and Dad came much later and died here. But he was in the, he fought the whole war, 8 years, from 1775 to 1883. Participated in the Battle of Saratoga, so he got rather far away from Wilmot and Andover in his travels with the military.
Can I say something?
Sure.
Just want to thank Al because he took a while to find Daniel. He knew he was supposed to be here, and he had no flag holder or a flag on his grave. And the Historical Society happened to have one in their room, and we had no idea where it came from. And some members were a little reluctant to give it up, but Al actually looked up the RSA and came and got it from us.
Oh, very good.
Good work.
So now he has a flag.
Well, that's good. Yeah, this cemetery is fascinating. It really is.
I'll mention that one. So this is Mary Tucker. She died in 1861. And Cemetery 101. There's a little lamb here. Mary had a little lamb. But often the lambs are there sort of indicating their innocence, or that the young children often will have a lamb. And she was 12. So.
With the comma.
With another one with a comma.
If people died in the dead of winter, sometimes they have to wait.
Oh yeah. Yeah, there were stores. As now often. It's really hard to dig in the ground when it's frozen.
Yeah, the cemetery, when we close November 1st.
Yeah.
So then Chadwick's holds the remains, unless the family has their remains, and holds them. 2 years ago, we had like 5 or 6 burials right off the bat, wasn't it, in the spring? So we open up May
Several
1st.
every weekend.
We'll do burials into as long as we can. Well, the weather's good, but generally that's the rule for the cemetery. And there are flyers right up by the entrance where we have all the cemetery rules and the dates and stuff, too, if you're interested.
You know, some cemeteries have a big granite building that they put coffins in and just spring.
There's one in Elkins that does that.
What do you call that?
The tomb.
Mausoleum. Yeah, mausoleum. Is that what it is?
No.
I think a mausoleum is a family.
That's a
It's a
family
family.
space.
Above
That's
ground
we don't have any
burial.
like that, but it's just temporary storage
Yeah.
until it's
But
warm.
I
So we
want-
have Chadwick's.
There are places. There are ways to warm the ground and dig into it if you really must, but it's hard.
There's a
I
question
no,
behind
it's
you.
more a comment. My great grandpa lived on the Meepham soon at the Goodhues, but they were the undertakers in town, and Fred Goodhue got an embalming certificate from in New York, a school in New York that taught embalming. So prior to that, he and his father would have to bury people, I think, in the winter because they weren't embalmed. They wouldn't last until spring.
Wow.
So, because I think they taught, and I have, which I will give to the Historical Society, some logbooks from them of who they buried, when they buried, what kind of if it was a pine box, if it was a real coffin. Yeah.
Oh, that'd be really
So
useful.
I will pass those on. I'm
'Cause
still
there could
going
be some
through
that are-
tons of stuff.
There could be some that are missing. and we
Exactly,
could
that's
find
what
them,
I'm
yeah.
thinking, and I mean, I do have a few of these little stones left over and some coffin lids and that kind
Oh, wow.
of thing. But I thought it was interesting that nobody was embalming until Fred was one of the first. And they service, I live in Sutton now, I used to live next to the church there, but Fred, they had an outlet in Sutton where they would sell gravestones, because they were the only undertakers around for 5 or 6 towns. So.
I mean,
I remember from the history that the house that's on the corner there was his workshop.
Yep.
The
Well,
main-
yes, no, his house was
Oh,
a
yeah,
beautiful
yeah.
house, got burned down by the fire chief's son, who was a pyromaniac. No, it's very sad. This kid burned it down. So that was a real tragedy, and now all that was really left was the workshop that Donna Johann lives in now.
But embalming started in 1860s or so with the Civil War, where people died very far away. And embalming only lasts like 2 weeks. But they tried all kinds of things, arsenic, formaldehyde, all that kind of thing. And I think when Lincoln was one of the earliest ones when he did his tour when he died, and he had to be embalmed like I think 12 times
Oh my goodness.
during his tour across the country.
Wow.
Anyway, moving on. We have Samuel Tenney here. We actually have a descendant of Samuel Tenney here, by Colonel Samuel Tenney, and he operated a grist mill in town here from 1842 to 1867. So.
Who's the Tinney relative?
Oh, we have two.
Thank you for coming.
Then here we have Benjamin Gove, who's also a Civil War veteran. And part of what's interesting about this is that there's no stone. We think it's his stone, but there's a lot of cases like this where we have to kind of guess as far as what's really there, because there's just nothing left of the stone. But he was also one of the original hog reeves. He was elected in 1808, so he was chasing hogs and taking them over into there. So.
Would that be the senior of the junior over there?
I don't know.
There's another Gove over, Benjamin Gove over there also.
He must be senior. I mean, he died in, he was a Civil War veteran, so, yeah.
Yeah, he was in the War of 1812.
Okay. So, so they,
So we
yeah,
have,
the guy-
we have
the
a
guy's
barge
probably older,
one.
yeah.
We had a barge one down in our basement.
oh, okay. One to show down here that's interesting is Jenny Trimble. You can see here the little square for where her tintype photo was. So we saw the pictures up on the bench, and on this one actually there would have been a little lead frame with a tintype photo in it, and that's long gone. I mean, she died in 1879. So, and she was 19 years, 6 months, and 16 days. So, because they often mark the days now. The other thing you'll see on these is this AE, which means their age. It means that in Latin it means the time of one's age. This one here, we think this is Jeremiah Bean. There's no stone. There's like an old rock there. We think it's Jeremiah Bean as a veteran. But that's all we know. Daniel Emery is right here somewhere. So Emery's going to be closer.
Oh, David Heath.
Oh, he's a big white stone.
Oh, there's a flag around that one.
Yeah, but that's I made sure that they were there.
Decided on Thursday that we were going to pull it.
I got that. Careful. Daniel Emery?
They got you in the
Okay, there he is. He's the second oldest person currently. He died in 1850 at age 99. Oh, I was thinking we'd go around like that. Okay. So he was 99 years old.
That was really old.
He's here is an interesting type, basically a typo. They're typing in or carving in his last name, and they ran out of space. And so it's Heath, and then the H is above it. So you see that, especially with the longer names like Whittemore, we'll find that there. But he's a good example of essentially a typo.
I have a question.
Yeah.
There's a couple stones over there that are in the ground, and they babe of so-and-so. So there's no name to the child. Is that a stillborn? Do you have any clue as to what
They
those are?
hadn't named it. I don't.
Yes, I could answer one of those. My
Yeah.
great-grandparents had one. It was a stillborn. But they did name him, but they didn't put his name on there. They just said babe of so-and-so. But they die the same day they're born. Actually, both my great-grandparents and my grandparents lost.
Okay, thank you, thank you.
As long as the typo, they should have got a rebate on the cost of the stone.
They may have gotten a good deal, I don't know.
That happens a lot.
Check.
Orange cut here's another typo, as it were. His mother's name is Abigail, but they ran out of space, so it's A-B-A-G-A, and then they finished her name I-L over here. So, it didn't quite fit, but
They could have done their homework.
yeah. Al, do you want to talk about this one?
Well, this isn't stone really. The base is stone, of course, but this is made out of zinc. Metal.
It's hollow.
Yeah, it is hollow, right? Yep. And it gets this beautiful patina. It never gets any lichens or dirt on it or anything. It's just beautiful since the day it was here. And the Goodhue family, as we've just heard from other people, were the monument sellers and the undertakers here in town. Fred lived down at the corner there, and they talked about his house, or the workshop being moved up to the street now where his house, the original house, had burned. These panels on the monument are added after they cast a monument and sell it that way, and then you add these panels with the names that you want for the people that are buried here. It is a story that during Prohibition they would use the hollowness of these, take off a panel and put the liquor in there. And then the local people would know that that's where they could come and get their liquor.
And I still have a tool that fits those.
Really? Well, if you donate
Yeah,
that
my
too
grandmother,
someday.
who was the Goodhue.
Well, that'd be
the
great.
daughter of Fred and
Yeah, you can.
That's a good idea if I ever need to hide anything.
Right. Yeah.
So, and also, Fred, as you probably know, on the top of Mount Kearsarge, there's that Winslow house that was like a little hotel, and it burned down, and he was one of the people that attempted to rebuild it. So he was just everywhere in the history, just an important person, but he did, undertaking, cabinet making, general store, all kinds of stuff. So.
Worked on